Alright, today we're going to be testing out the Andili. I think's how you say it, I don't know. It's the cheapest thing I could find on Temu. It says right here has a 2-year warranty. I don't know if that's actual, but as you've seen, just unboxed this thing. Kind of went over a little bit of this off camera because this is my first plasma cutter, so I'm gonna try to get this thing figured out so I don't bore you to death with the setup. We got some kind of air dryer and a gauge and then an assortment of fittings to make that all work. Got a little bit of air hose for that. Obviously got a ground. Looks like we got a 210 to 120 adapter and then our actual torch setup. Overall, it looks like it's got a nice little digital display. I did notice that plasma is actually spelled incorrectly on this, which is not great start, but let's start setting this thing up. We'll start trying to cut some metal after that. All right, I guess the first thing we need to set up is gonna be this air regulator, and they do not have anything in the instructions on how to do that, so I'm just gonna try to wing it and get through this myself. Hopefully me failing on camera will help you in the long run. Probably gonna pull this screw out and the hoe board or something inside's gonna fall out of it. Got this gauge here, pretty high end stuff. It'll regulate our inlet pressure, but it's not on PSIs, it's on some kind of other. I'm used to PSIs, so that's a little odd for me. Going straight in, no Teflon tape, which it feels like the thing just bottomed out, so I'm gonna say that's probably gonna be an air leak. So I've just got a fitting here that'll air chuck. So it's actually gonna go in here and then the air is gonna go out. So yeah, I think that's the way we want it. Let me grab some Teflon. We'll just put that on there. Now I'm sure if you wanted to later on you could upgrade all this stuff and you could get a better regulator and everything like that, and that would probably make this a little bit nicer. Like I was saying, I'm already kind of worried about that gauge leaking, so we'll see what happens once we get this all tightened up. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that off. I said I wasn't gonna put Teflon on it, but just the way that thing, it's almost like a straight pipe thread on this thing, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know. It looks just dead up like a straight thread. It's not like a tapered pipe thread. Must send her in there like that, I guess. We'll see. Definitely an abundance of hose, which somebody cut this one at about a 45-degree angle, so I'm just gonna use the old box cutter on this. I've got a specialty tool that you can use to cut hose, but I don't have it on me. It's right over there in the toolbox, and I don't feel like walking over there, so that'll be good enough. So we'll go from there down to there. So on those push connects, it's kind of like an airline fitting, like on a truck. If you've ever dealt with that, kind of like but it's just a push connect, and once you pull it back out, it's got some teeth in there that bite down on that thing, like that way. Alright, we're gonna call that good. So that's gonna be the torch, and then that's gonna be, which is kind of weird, it's our ground, but it says positive. I would think that would be the negative, but I don't know if that's like a TIG welder where they're flipped. Put our ground in. One thing that's bad about it, the ground's not real long on this thing. Get some kind of wrench tool. That's that dragging thing I was talking about. I do like it has that sheathing on there. Now, I don't know how strong that'll be, but we do have it. Alright, so the end of our lead here has 3 different things. It's got like I'm sure like some kind of trigger, then a crimp connection for something. I'm sorry I don't have all the answers for this stuff, but the instructions really didn't tell you too much, so I'm gonna plug this thing in down here. And like I was saying, pretty new to the plasma cutter scene, so kind of just winging it on this kind of stuff. I'm gonna say this guy snips off here, put that nice Harbor Freight connector on there, put that there, and this should go right here. And I'm guessing this tool here is maybe for your consumables, which it actually does come with some extras. So pull that cup off. So it looks like that would fit that. That fits that. That's pretty cool. That's a handy little tool. Maybe put a little zip tie on that, put it on the handle somewhere so we can have that around. So the trigger has that little safeguard on it, which that might get a little annoying. Which I'm sure you could probably strong arm that thing off pretty easily if that was really a make or break it thing. And then, like I was saying, you can pull this thing and you won't be dragging your tip across. So that's pretty dang cool. It's got a girthy handle on this thing compared to like any of them that I've used. I've used some hypotherms and stuff like that of my friends, which this thing is definitely not on the level of all that. Alright, I'm going to turn the air on, check for leaks. Yeah, just like I thought, that gauge is leaking. So our switch is in the back, flip that on, and we're live. So, looks like we got a couple different settings here, and those LEDs are bright. Looks like we got pre-flow, post-flow, which I don't know what you would use pre and post-flow a lot for on a plasma. I know like TIG welding, like stainless and everything, it'll help, you know, keep porosity and just stuff like that down. As far as a plasma, I don't know if it helps kind of cool the consumables down. I don't know. Comment down below if you know. Like I was saying, I'm just kind of new to it. That's why I've got just a cheap machine here. So I've got about a piece of 1/4 inch steel here. I've got it on 20 amps. I'm going to jack it up to, I don't know, 35. And that's something I'm going to have to learn too, is amperage and everything like that to cut this stuff. And all of the cut charts and everything like that are all in metric, so I'm not sure exactly what this thing's capable of. It said 14 millimeter, which, I mean, that's pretty dang close to 9/16, which, man, that would be pretty surprising. But it is a 50 amp machine, so it's possible. So let's see if we can get this thing to cut a little bit here. Well, I'm not mad about that. See if we can't give it a little bit more here. I'm pretty stoked on that, honestly. Let me get you in here and show you. So you can see that's pretty clean cut. They've got some what they call, I think, dross or something like that, where it kind of leaves that overhang. But that's probably a little bit due to me not being great with the plasma. But I mean, 1/4 inch right there, snipped right through it. Well, you say we turn this thing all the way up from, I think it'll go to 50. Yeah, we got that thing pegged out. Let's get something super thick, see what it'll cut. Alright, so we're jacked up to 50 amp. I did put the old dragger tool on here so we can see how that goes, and maybe that'll help us be just a little bit better with the cut, but just gonna pull that across there and see what happens. Alright, so to me, the torch height is too high currently, but I've got some adjustment screws so you can drop that down to make that a little bit better. So let's see if we can't drop this thing off by hand real quick. I think we're running out of air pressure. Let me kick my compressor on. Alrighty, let's give this another go. I'm gonna resort to the welding hood this time. That 50 amp is pretty bright stuff. Alright, it cut just about all the way through, not completely. Alright, so as you can see, it chewed through that, I mean, pretty decently. That was a pretty thick piece. It's pretty much 1/2 inch. I went ahead and I threw some Teflon back here. It seemed to help it a little bit, but I mean, it's still kind of leaking slightly in there. You can hear that. I think overall the machine is really good. I mean, I obviously need practice with it, and I need to dial in like air pressures back here, also amperage and everything like that. And I think it could cut pretty good. I mean, it had that 1/4 inch down there, snipped right through that. So let me see. Like a lot of like stuff I'll be doing, it's gonna be like just a little 1/8 inch plate and stuff like that, maybe rounding a corner. It might be a little easier to do that with this than, you know, pulling out a grinder and doing all that. So let's just try to throw a little radius on this real quick and see what that looks like. Alright, so I've got this set up here. It's just like a little gusset or something, say like you wanted to make a little gusset. So we'll cut that in. It'll be a little easier than like if you took a grinder, you know, cut that, ground that little radius into it. So just throw that over there, see if we can't cut that in, make it look a little easier and nicer than a grinder would. Forgot to turn the amperage down. Let that cool off and see what we got. Alright, so there's the cut. As you can see, there's a bunch of material on the back, and which I was saying, I think that's called dross or something. But I'm not super good, obviously, with the plasma yet. Just haven't practiced with it at all, so just right out of the box, if you're looking for somebody to tell you how to perfect a plasma cutter, this probably ain't the video. All in all, I'm pretty happy with that, because some days, you know, whenever you're cutting or, you know, gonna fabricate something and it's got an angle in it, cutting that with a grinder can be a pain. You know, you gotta either try to just work it back and forth with a slitting disc or something. But with the plasma, it kind of helps eliminate that. Everything that I've seen, this thing works pretty decent. I mean, it cuts, does everything. I think the bad cuts and stuff like that is solely my error on not being extremely familiar with plasma cutters. I've never had one. I mean, they're always usually so expensive, they've kind of been out of reach for me. Being able to get into this one, I think right around, it was under 300 bucks on Temu. And I know Temu's kind of got a bad reputation and everything, but I bought this, and I bought that, it just hissed at me for some reason. I bought that little inspection camera that I did a video on. I'm pretty impressed with both of them. I use that inspection camera all the time. I've used it on numerous occasions and it's been great so far. I think I paid 12 bucks for that thing. Some of this stuff that you don't necessarily have to spend $2,000–3,000 on to get into, like this or that little inspection camera. If you see that you want to use something like this, then later on upgrade. When you buy these cheap tools, don't think of it as just a cheap tool. Like, think of it as, okay, I'm using the heck out of a plasma. I can afford to upgrade if you need to. This thing might do everything I ever need out here because I'm not just plasmaing every day. I guess if you're looking for my recommendation to buy one, I think it's definitely worth the $270 or whatever I paid, which I'll have a link down below that you can go click on it and it'll take you to where this is. A little trick with Temu, if you put something in your cart and then you kind of sit back for a couple days, weeks, whatever, especially if you don't need it, they'll start sending you codes and then that price will continue to drop. So maybe think about doing that if you're gonna purchase something from them. Hopefully this is something that you can use in your own shop. I think it's pretty cool to see cheap tools like these. Alright, that's enough rambling for me. I'm pretty happy. Definitely gonna practice with this thing. Not the best, don't claim to be. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one. And let me know what you're working on in the comments. See ya.